Okay, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the lab of how to make a map, and this is using the instructions and stuff, or this is the instructions and stuff for how to do that. So log on to Citrix. This is the web address. If you haven't used it before, you may have to download the receiver. After it downloads, you may have to tell the page to detect it again. Sometimes you have to click on the detect again button, but you never have to fill anything out for Citrix. If it starts asking you about, how it's supposed to be set up and run, don't worry with any of that. Just continue on through. Don't fill any of that stuff out. What happens is when you go to this web address, it looks for the receiver. Once it finds the receiver, it fills all of that stuff out automatically. If you put other stuff in, it will not work. So once you've got it installed and you can detect it, here's what's going to happen. It's going to pull in this software, identify it's there, give you this storefront logo where you can log in, and then you simply log in. Now, the username is the one you use in Blackboard. The password's the same one you use in Blackboard. Once you put those in, hit the log on button and it'll take you to the storefront. The storefront is where you go in to identify the individual apps. We're going to use ArcMap, so you would click on ArcMap. So a couple of hints. Don't keep clicking when you're trying to do this. It takes some time. Simply double click on the icon you want to load and then wait. Once it pops up, a little screen, you may have to click OK or hit the enter key or something like that, but you've got to be patient. If you keep clicking, it will not work. Once it opens up, load a blank or untitled map. Should look something like this at that point, and now you're ready to go. The first thing we're going to do is add data. And add data is this tiny little yellow box with a plus symbol on it. The add data opens up a window like this, and then you simply figure out where you need to go and what data you're looking for. You probably have to make a folder connection where you'll connect to the folder where your data is at. So the first folder connection you're going to make is to start in the EL drive. In it, go all the way to the bottom of the list, and at the bottom of that list you'll find the student folders. In the student folders you'll find this class, GIS 101, and in that class you'll find your folder. Now after you make that connection, you should be able to click on this little drop down here where this look in box is and go directly to that. After you've made the connection, you're going to find the TL underscore 2010 etc. folder. You're going to open it up and click on the shape file that's inside of it, and then once you find that file and you've clicked on it, you're going to click the add button. Congratulations, you now have the data in a blank map. Woohoo! Clearly a couple of my circles do not have the appropriate animations to them, so we'll go ahead and continue because I'm not going to go back and change it. So you've got your map, and the thing I want to point out next is down here at the bottom. You got these two little buttons, and they determine whether you're in the map view or the data view. Once you select map view, it'll change the look to something very much more like this. Now, next step is you want to go up here on file and click on that because you need to change this so that it's in a layout or a landscape view instead of a portrait view. So when you click on file, you're going to click on the page and print setup, and then you're going to go into the page and print setup and see what these two circles are. For landscape, those buttons you need to select or check so that it no longer appears in portrait form, and then click OK. Now once you've done that, it's going to look like this. Notice how the box on the inside is sort of still in portrait, and the box slightly outside of that is in landscape. These little blue boxes that you see along the edge will allow you to resize that blue box to match this outside box. There's also another one that's up top. If you use your slider on the side of the pane and slide up, you'll eventually find it's somewhere up in here in the ether. But once you've resized all these to match up to those lines, you can then utilize your magnifying tool to resize the state of Virginia. And you do that by clicking somewhere that's above the state and to the left of the state, like where this arrow just landed. And then holding your mouse button down, drag it diagonally down to some point that is to the right and slightly below the state of Virginia. And then when you get there, simply releasing the mouse. Once you do that, it will then resize your map elements inside that window and should look a lot like this. Next, I'm going to point out the little hand tool over here, the one that's circled with the little yellow circle. If you click on that, you can grab data in the map and move it around. I simply grabbed it with that tool and drug it back down to the bottom. About 3 or 4 inches to the right of the hand tool, there is a black arrow right next to the little blue eye, right above the push pin, right below the add data button. I forgot to put a circle around it, so that's why I'm explaining it so much. From that tool, you can click on that and that'll make the hand go away. But notice I moved Virginia down enough, I left some room underneath so I can put my scale bar and my other things. At this point, I'm almost done. All I've got to do is change my symbology and insert those other elements. Symbology. So basically you want to right click on your data in the table of contents, click on properties, and then find the symbology tab and then click on the categories. So there's the data. Once you click on it, you go down and click on properties. Once you've clicked on properties, the properties layer properties comes up. You want to make sure you click on the symbology tab and then click on categories. And when you do, it's going to change it and it's going to look a little bit like this. What I want to point out is the value field. You want to set that to name saldo, and then you want to uncheck this box for all other values, and then you want to go down here and click the add all values button. Now it's going to throw them out of order a little bit, but you can use these up and down arrows by selecting, for example, the 10 and the 11 districts. And once you select one of them, you can then use these arrows up and down to move them elsewhere in the list, so you can move them to the bottom of the list if you need to. And then once you're done, click apply and then click OK. Your map should now look something like this. Okay, next we want to insert those map things, like in the title, legends, etc. And so the first thing you want to do is rename the data in the table of contents. I recommend something like congressional districts. Simply click on the data in the table of contents, then slowly click a second time. Now don't double click. I don't want you to double click. I want you to click on it so it's highlighted, pause a second or two, and then click a second time. That slow second click will make the text editable, and then you can simply type in what you want. Do the exact same thing for the field right below the TL 2010-51 name, to where it says name saldo. Simply do the same slow 2 clicks, and then once it is editable, delete that text. Alright, so now we're going to go down this list of things. We're moving along quite nicely, and we're going to follow the list. We're going to start off with the title, and you would simply click on the title. And once you've clicked on the title, you're going to it'll open up a little box where you can put it in. Simply type in Virginia districts, double click on it if you want to edit its size and position. You can use the change symbol sign if you want to change the fonts. Next, let's look at oh yeah, you can click on these things and just drag them around if you want. The legend wizard is next. You have to hit next a whole bunch of times to run through this process, but it will eventually spit you out a nice legend. It has little blue boxes in the corners of the legend. The cool thing is if you grab those, you can resize it. As you resize it, it automatically resizes the font, so that's helpful. North arrow. Simply select it, click on it, and then pick one you want, put it in. Again, move it around, resize it, put it to wherever you like. Same way with the scale bar, but you can also play around with it. There's a lot of options there you can select and play from, and as you resize it, it automatically updates the font and those sorts of things as well. Play with it and see what you think. Okay, now what? Basically at this point in time, you've got a map. You've got a scale bar underneath your stuff. You've got legend, you got your north arrow, you've moved them around, you've minimized giant holes of white space or whatever, and you've got a map document looking. So what you want to do is save it. So you're going to go to the file, and you're going to go save as, and change you're gonna change the save in box to your folder. This way, when you open up Citrix in class next week, in your folder, this map document will be here. So if anything goes wrong, we can always open it back up, and I can help you finish exporting your PDF. Okay, when you name it, don't put any spaces or symbols. Just use letters, and if you have to have a space, use an underscore. So how do you do that? Well, I've put a little reminder down here in the bottom right. So we start in the EL drive, and go to the bottom of that, find the student folders, and then in the student folders find your class, and then in your class find your folder, and that's where you want to save it. So here I've went to the EL drive student folders, the GIS 101, and then I found the example student folder, and in that there was the chapter 6 thing, and there's the data that we're using now, and to that I added my example map, and then you can see it's called example underscore map, and then I simply saved it. Last thing you want to do is make your PDF by using the export map tool. And so basically, when you go to export map from file, so file, top left corner, export map. Now you want to select your desktop, not the desktop on the server, but yours. And so it's a little bit tricky. Give it a nice map name, and then change save as file type to PDF, and simply save it, and it will export your map to that location. But again, it's not quite that easy because you have to be in the right location. So in the save in box, if I were to click that down, it shows all these other locations that I've recently been to, and you see desktop is listed at least twice on this list. You need to make sure it's the desktop that is on the local C drive where you're working at. And in this example here, the local disk D on my computer, DI PC, that's my home laptop, that's the one that I'm trying to save this to, that desktop. And you have to figure out which one is which for you. As long as you have the map document saved in your student folder, we can export the map in class. And again, most of you did it in class, and if I've seen you did it in class, even if you somehow managed to lose everything, I'll give you credit. I'm pretty good that way. Alright, so this should get you through. Play around with it, work on it, have fun, and enjoy making your first maps.